And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast. This week, we will be previewing the 2019 Waste Management Open. 132-man field, a little smaller than normal, but still be a good one. Before we get to that, we'll recap last week's action. In order to do so, my co-host, as always, you can find him on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. Jesse, how we doing, man?
Man, I'm all right, dude. It's been a rough start to the year here for all these like season long contests, except for the one and done. In the one and done deal, I've got a cut made for everybody, but in the rest of these like Junkies League and the $250 buy-in over on Gup's Corner, I'm awful. Like putting my worst lineup in every single time. Like it's the worst thing I've ever seen.
That's what happened to me last week. For a lot of last year, I just throw one lineup out everywhere. And I guess that might have been the smart thing to do because now I'm going 3 to 5 a week. And literally this last week, I think I got 74th in the Junkies contest. And in Matt Jones's tout deal, I think I got 17th or 18th at 18. It was by far the worst I had. The other two were okay, nothing special, but that one was horrific. Like 2 of 6 made the cut. So yeah, it was a rough one. Overall, the season's been fun, but I feel you. But talking OAD, I'm proud and happy that I got 3 of 3 through so far. But it's like the weakest 3 of 3 out there. You're at least putting some numbers up there, which is
decent numbers. But I mean, like I've burned 3 big names already. So and they didn't win. Obviously last week was a great time to use Justin Rose, and I didn't pull a trigger on him then. So, yeah, it's been a frustrating start, man. Because, if you've noticed these first few weeks, the chalk has just gotten absolutely slaughtered. And it is, except for, I'm playing a bunch of chalk, so it sucks.
You're doing what you usually don't do, and now it's backfired. After the last 2 years we've been doing this, it's like a chalk central, and we try to adjust to the norm, and now it's coming back. It's pretty funny how that works.
Yeah, it is crazy, man. And obviously, if I go back the other way, it's probably gonna, the chalk's gonna start murdering me again. So, anyways,
as they always like to say, trust the process. Just trust the process; it'll work.
Yeah, we need some Joel Embiid in here.
There you go. That would be freaking awesome. But we mentioned Justin Rose. Let's do a quick recap of the Farmers Insurance Open. Justin Rose just torched things. He didn't have the first round lead because John Rahm beat him by a stroke that day. But after that, Justin Rose just crushed the world, finishing at 21 under par. He looked locked in. For anybody that's worried about his Honma clubs, I think he's just fine. What do you got on Justin Rose winning last week? It's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, I was surprised that he wasn't more highly touted coming in. I mean, I know he didn't look great the week before, but he's still the number 1 player in the world. And I've heard, the people worry about his club change. I mean, I talked about it at the beginning of the year. If he's not going to change clubs unless it's a good switch for him. And he's still the number 1 player in the world. So, I mean, he's like the best player on the planet at this point. You can put any clubs in his hands and he's still going to be okay. So yeah, it wasn't surprising. I wish I had more of him on DraftKings. I did make a lot of late swaps based on, some ownership projections from FanShare that I saw. And he only came in, right around, kind of depending on which buy-in level you're in, 13, 10% in that area. So pretty incredible, really. A lot of people faded the top and hit those middle ranks, and especially like Cantlay, he busted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's 2 straight weeks. Cantlay and Neiman just haven't been the chalk specials the last 2 weeks. But yeah, you mentioned the guys faded up top, and the leaderboard was loaded with those top price guys. So it goes to show you sometimes you just got to roll with it on some of these tournaments. Let's talk Jordan Spieth. He paired up with Pat Reed over the weekend, and they had a little bromance hug, which I want to know how scripted that was. I'd love to hear the honest feedback on that one. But Jordan played well on the North course, couldn't do diddly on the South, but he made a cut and he competed, I guess. Any thoughts on Jordan Spieth? Do you think he's coming back? You got concern? Anything there?
It was definitely an improvement over what we've seen out of him. I mean, he basically played well enough on the North course on Thursday to make the cut, and then shot 72, 72, 72 coming in. So, I mean, nothing special on the weekends by any means, but, 72 is obviously still a respectable course on the South course, or a respectable score on the South course. So yeah, I mean, I haven't looked really much at his numbers and kind of what happened to him. He did have a ginormous blow up there on 15 on Saturday when he was making a bit of a charge, and then just I don't even know what happened to him, but he took a 7, which is a triple bogey, and then bogey the next, and it was pretty much over for his chances from there. But yeah, I mean, he's I said it, he's going to be low owned, and he's still Jordan Spieth, so right around 6 to 7% of people bid on that, and it was better than playing Cantlay.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Much better than playing Cantlay. El Tigre, he wasn't horrible, wasn't great. I believe he was around a top 20 finish. He played well on the North Course, pretty much to get him through to the weekend, and kind of sputtered through. He had a big Sunday finish, but everyone's writing, positive thoughts that this is what Tiger wanted. This is what Tiger needed to get going for the season. What's your thoughts on Tiger? Because I just don't – I don't know. I said it all year last year when it was going on that when these other top-tier guys are on, I just don't think this Tiger's quite there right now, but that's just me. Yeah,
I mean, I think he can be. I mean, obviously, he took them all on at the Tour Championship and beat them all. I mean, it's the strongest field of the year, 30-man field with all these guys in it, and he won, and that was not that long ago. So, he's older. I think the spurts that he has where he plays great golf are going to be fewer and far between. But it's promising for him to shoot, 5 under on Sunday and get inside the top 20 there. I think DraftKings will continue to overprice him, so it's going to be hard to play him there. But I hope Tiger does well. It's only it's good for golf. So
yeah, no, I'm with you there. One final thought for me, and then if you have anything, go for it. I want to ask you though, did you see Hideki's shot from the sand on 18?
I did not. No.
Okay, I recommend Googling that when the show's over. It is probably one of the more impressive shots I've seen. It had to be 250 plus out at least because he was trying to get there in 2. He's on the right side bunker on the edge of the fairway, and he launched it. There's the water there on the left, and he puts it a beauty. He missed his eagle putt, but it was one of the most impressive shots I've seen. He saw him swing at it. Yeah, he swung out of his shoes. He
hit it from 228 to 17 feet out of that bunker.
five wood out of the bunker. 5 wood.
Oh, he hit a 5 wood out of the bunker too.
It was amazing. Like I'd never seen. Even the announcers were like, "Holy shit!" Basically, like that was a golf shot. That's all I can say. It was impressive.
Yeah, that's crazy with the 5 wood out of a bunker.
Any final thoughts on the weekend? I don't know if you saw. I know you've said it before at other tournaments like the U.S. Open, but Jason Day on 18 hit one off the roof and it bounced into the bunker to save him. Anything else?
I missed that too. No, I mean Taylor Gooch up there amongst all these other names is pretty impressive. That he's had back-to-back really good weeks, and he's super low price this week. So get ready for the chalk there. Other than that, man, it was a really good tournament. I mean, obviously an awesome leaderboard, and ready to move on to the waste management.
Before we do that, one last question. Any thoughts? I just wanted to mention it because it's only fitting. I think the weekend Rose wins, Bryson wins over there in Dubai. So basically the top 2 players in the world do their thing. But Bryson's been damn impressive. There's a clip going out there about him using his science to make picks and everything, but you don't have to get into that if you don't want to. Just what's your overall thoughts on just Bryson's continued dominance, basically?
Yeah, Bryson and Justin are both playing really well. I saw side by side of like their last 2 years, and it's really similar as far as finishes goes. Rose is overall the best player in the world for the last 2 years, though, and you can tell with those numbers. But it's going to be a fun year, I think, and I can't wait to get to Augusta, man.
Augusta will be a lot of fun. Like you said, we got the Waste Management Open coming out in Phoenix, Arizona. Why don't you give us some past event history of this absolute fun tournament?
Yep. So TPC Scottsdale. You'll talk more about the golf course itself here in just a few minutes. It's it used to be called the Phoenix Open. It's changed names a couple times, but the Waste Management Open is basically what it's called now. The largest party on turf, or I don't know what they call it. A lot of people. They always set the record for the most people at a PGA Tour event every year, and yada yada yada. Last year, Gary Woodland was your winner, 18 under par. He beat Ches Reavie in a playoff. Year before that, Hideki Matsuyama was the winner, 17 under par. He beat Webb Simpson in the playoff. Year before that, Hideki Matsuyama, 14 under, beat Ricky Fowler in a playoff. So 3 straight years with a playoff. Brooks Koepka has won this tournament before. Phil's won it 3 times. Kyle Stanley's in the mix there. JB Holmes has won it a couple times. At least maybe no, he's just won it once. No, twice. Yeah, 2008 and 2006. So a pretty good mix of guys there. A lot of different types, but most of these guys hit it pretty far.
Yeah, it used to be a complete bomb and gouge course. It was a Crenshaw design, or not Weiskopf design, Tom Weiskopf back in 1986, and then he revamped it in 2014 to make it a little more challenging to people out there. But still, you can get away with letting loose, just like you were saying, or you can play smart, as the different people you mentioned out there. It's a par 71, about 7,266 yards, which is rather long for a par 71 course. But again, it's a little bit of elevation. It's warm. John Rahm says it rolls out it goes an extra 10 to 15 yards based on just flight, temperature, roll, all that good stuff. So you can definitely get it done there. It's like ranked 32nd out of 51 on the tour last year, so not the hardest of courses out there, but also a little bit of challenge what's out there somewhat. But greens, you got Bermuda greens, very, very large greens. I remember we talked about it before. This is one of those where the average putt's like 35 to 40 yards, so a lot of two-putting here. You want to be able to stick it close to get your birdies, because there's going to be a lot of birdie chances, just a matter of converting those chances on such deep putts. They're not super fast, but they're respectable. They usually average around 11 on the stent meter. Fairways are pretty generous, and the rough's not too bad. Bubba Watson talks about he finds the rough a lot, which he tends to do everywhere he goes, but he also says you can play out of it here. It doesn't hurt you as bad. Now, you don't want to go too far out, because then you get to the desert waste areas, which are on every single hole, and you can play out of most of the waste areas, but you don't know. You're going to get footprints. We've seen all kinds of different – you got cactus you can play under. There's a lot of places you can get in trouble there. If you have an opening, knock yourself out, but it's definitely less than ideal. There's around 80 bunkers on the course. A lot of them have been put in the fairways, and almost over half of them. That was one thing Weiskopf did to make it a little more challenging, so you couldn't just completely bombs away. A little more strategy and play there. Some of the heavy hitters can still kind of work around it, but for the most part, you got to be a little more precise. There's waters on 6 of the holes as well. Some of the more challenging holes in the middle of the course and the beginning of the course, but still you can get around that. It's relatively generous scoring, but you can get into trouble with the water, the bunkers, the desert area, all that kind of stuff to worry about. But a lot of iron play, a lot of nice approach shots in will dictate if the players go low or not. So I think that's one thing you can kind of tell by the people Jesse mentioned as past winners. They've done pretty well at with the irons and making that kind of stuff work out. All right, with all that being said, but Jesse, what kind of stats are you looking at this week?
From obviously I know you said that it's been renovated, but strokes getting off the tee is still a big factor here. So tee to green and off the tee, I'm weighting both of them. Proximity, I'll weight that as well. And then shots gained putting on Bermuda, using that stat this week, and then a little bit of a course history mix. Some stuff that I look at usually for course history. So stats there, but also just in general course histories too.
Yeah, no, I'll be pretty much on a lot of the same ones with you. The putters, you don't have to be as good, but two putting is good. I think par 5 scoring, there are a lot of eagle opportunities at a course like that is something to keep in mind outside of what Jesse mentioned already. A couple of things I want to mention here. Fan Share Sports real quick. Coming into this event, last 3 events coming in good form, basically. In this field, you got Kuchar, Hadwin, and Xander as the top 3, followed by Rahm, Webb. Lucas Glover is a name we will mention later because he's coming in his last 3 events. He's averaging over 100 DraftKings points, and he's priced at only $7,200. So that's someone to keep an eye on. You got Finau, Putnam, JT, and, of course, the Gooch coming in averaging about 91 points per week. If you want to look at how people did here last year, besides looking at just the leaderboard, Woodland, Reavie, Ollie led the way. Yes, Ollie Schneiderjans was 4th. The guys like Brendan Steele, Chesson Hadley. What I wanted to do and I like to do on things like this is look at the Eagles last year. Ches Reavie had 3 Eagles. Other than that, it was 1 per person. So it's mainly Eagles. You can get to par 5s, but the 2 putts, because the greens are so big, you look at birdies, and that's where Woodland and others really made their hay last week. A couple other quick things. I did a search on FanShare with all their new tools. I put the results from the last 3 Waste Management Opens in 18, 17, and 16. Got the average DraftKings points for players in this field. And I know people hate on this man a lot, and I will hate on him later, but the number 1 golfer on average DraftKings points on the last 3 times here, Jesse, can you guess him?
Bubba.
Ricky Fowler. Yeah, he's leading the way. And then Kuchar second, Ollie's third, Phil, Steele, Sun Hoon Kang, Marty Laird, Benny Ann, Hideki, and Bill Haas. So not a lot of – there's some other names I think people would have guessed on that list. And last but not least, coming in good course form and course history, Ricky, Rahm, Cooch, Xander, and Woodland are a few of many. You can check it over there at fansharesports.com and all their fun new tools they have over there. With all that being said, let's get into the DraftKings picks for the week. So we got 4 guys over 10K, Jesse. You got Rahm at 11.5, JT at 11, Matsuyama at 10.7, Xander at 10.1. Where are you looking at up top?
Yeah, I mean, so here's how I think this week will go. I do think that it will be a more stars and scrubsy type week. The field is smaller. Like you've talked about, it's 132 versus I think 154, whatever started last week. So the field is smaller. And with the success of the higher price guys last week, I think people will automatically go back to those guys. And I think it's for good reason. I think Jon Rahm is obviously he's playing really well at this point. And he's from the area. He went to Arizona State. He finished 5th here in 2015 as a amateur. Finished 16th in 2017, 11th last year, and he's coming off of 5th at the Farmers Insurance. He was 6th the week before that at the Desert Classic, 8th at the Tournament of Champions. I mean, so the guy's playing really well. He's probably my favorite play up top here. But I do think he'll be popular. I don't know how this is all going to shake out, but it's just how kind of I see the week going early on here as far as I think he'll be highly touted and then will carry a lot of ownership. Hideki's obviously coming off the, what did he finish? 3rd last week? Yep. 3rd place last week at the Farmers Insurance Open. So he'd be my second choice. And then JT at 11,000. I think JT might be the low owned guy of Hideki and Jon Rahm, but this is a great week to kind of, in my opinion, go with the guy who is projected for less ownership. And at this point, I think it's JT. I never get Xander right, but play him if you want to. I mean, he's Xander. I've heard a lot of people say that about Xander, so I guess I'm not the only one. He's just unpredictable, in my opinion. But so for me, Rahm, Matsuyama, JT, with JT as the low-owned pivot in this region.
Yeah, I like Rahm a lot. You mentioned the form coming in, the local ties. There's a lot to like about Rahm. It's kind of one of those don't overthink it type things. He's going to contend more often than not at tournaments like this. So I love Rahm at this at 11.5. You got Matsuyama at 10.7. He's going to be chalkier than chalk. I'm really curious to see where all the chips lie when things are all said and done with FanShare come Wednesday. But I like him a lot. He's coming in phenomenal form. Like, there was a point last year where we said, no, you can't touch Hideki, but a T3, he had a T51 with an 18th. He's striking the ball really well. It's just other aspects of his game are kind of letting him down. His driving has been really, really rough to start the year here, but that's not as important here. As we already mentioned, you can find the rough and be okay, just don't find the desert. So I don't mind that at all. I think Xander, to me, I think he's going to be pretty low owned out of those 4, but maybe not. I think he's an interesting play. Mentioned how he's played well at this tournament before T17 last year in his only appearance, but coming in really, really good form. But for me, it's Rambo, it's Matsuyama, or it's going down to the 9K. It's absolutely loaded, but it'll be interesting to see what the ownership looks like in that scenario.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I do think that this is a week where these guys are the highest owned. So somebody in this region, like probably going to be Rahm, in my opinion. At least that's the way I see it going. Is going to be the highest owned of everybody in the whole entire field.
Yeah, Rambo and Matsuyama, I wouldn't be shocked if both are in the 20% plus range, which you usually don't see in this 10K and above. I think both of them are going to be pretty good because when we get to the 7s and the 6s, there's a lot of guys I have no problem throwing in there. Like there's some 6K guys we'll talk about that I think are very mispriced in this scenario. So In the 9K range, though, it's a loaded field. If you need to start here, you definitely can. You got Gary Woodland, defending champion at 99. Got Webb Simpson, 97, just, always reliable. Get it down, and he's actually putting now. Our boy Tony Finau at 95, another good weekend last weekend. Ricky at 94. Phil at 93 has played course history, is phenomenal here, coming off a really good performance at the Desert Classic. You got Cooch, who pretty much every fan share thing I mentioned had phenomenal history here at $9,200. Cam Smith at 91, and Adam Hadwin at 9,000. Jesse, what do you like here?
I mean, it's hard not to like Gary Woodland, obviously defending champion. For me, he'll kind of be more of a ownership type of play. If he's projected for some low ownership, I think he's a great play. He's coming off a 9th place at the Farmers Insurance Open. He missed the cut at the Sony Open, but that was because I one and done him, and that was an MDF as well. So MDF'd. Yeah, so he made it, but then got MDF. So in his last, if you take that out, his last 2 tournaments, he's 9th and 2nd. He's got another 2nd place finish back in October at CJ Cup. So obviously playing really well. Webb Simpson's super interesting. Obviously lost in the playoff. When was that? Last year? 2 years ago?
There's been 3 straight playoffs at this tournament.
Right. But it was 2 years ago. He missed the cut here last year. But was 2nd, the year before. He's got some decent putting numbers as far as on Bermuda. So I don't mind Webb. Tony Finau, he's got terrible course history. 2 straight missed cuts here. I will be curious to see if that sways many people. Because, if you think of like a golf course for Tony Finau, this seems like it, right? Like it's
definitely.
It's like wide open, grip and rip. But he is awful on Bermuda greens. He averages minus 0.3 strokes gained on Bermuda. So I don't know. And then Phil, man. I mean, he's won a bunch here. He's coming off being in contention at the Desert Classic. I think he's playable, and I hate fucking saying that, but he was 5th here last year. So I don't mind him. So for me, it's those 3 in this region. But it's this. I mean, when I say those 3, Woodland, Finau, Mickelson, I know I mentioned Webb. I don't know how much Webb I'll actually play, but this field. I mean, this is a loaded region here. I mean, pick your poison here.
Yeah, I'm curious to see Woodland's ownership coming off the defending champion. Had a big Sunday at the Farmers, coming in really good form. It's hard to hate him, like you said, at 99. Webb at 97, I don't mind that at all. Like you were saying, this guy, he keeps getting better and better once he figured out how to putt last year, the year before. A T8 and a 3rd, a T15, a T4, and a T6 in his last 5 tournaments. That's pretty good. Outside of that missed cut, like you mentioned last time here, a 2nd, a 14th, and a 10th his previous 3. So there's a lot to like with Webb at 97. I love Finau. We pretty much will probably mention him every time we record. I'd be really shocked if one of us, if not both of us, were not pro Finau on every tournament he plays in, pretty much. So I have no problem going to Finau. I'm curious to see the ownership, like you said. 3 straight missed cuts this event might sway some people, and I think I might go straight back to him because I think eventually, like a lot of these young guys, they're going to start figuring it out, and I think he's figuring it out pretty much everywhere else. Let's hope Bermuda's there as well. And I'm crazy with you on Phil Mickelson. He showed. I know the Desert Classic's a pitch and putt type tournament for these guys, not the most loaded field, but a $9,300 Phil, which will probably go overlooked again. He's made 23 of 28 cuts here. 11 top 10s. He's won it 3 times. Last year, T5, T16, T11 his last 3 times here. Coming in pretty good form, a T17 or better in 3 of his last 5 tournaments. 5 straight made cuts. I don't hate him at $9,300. It's really, really weird to say that because I'm usually not a big Phil guy either. A couple others, you got Kuchar in great form. He's got a T5 and a T9 his last 2 years here at 92. I mentioned all that fan share info about him. And then one other guy that we didn't mention, we had a huge Sunday at the Farmers, and he's just a sneaky guy every week, always low owned in these ranges. And one of these days he's going to pop. It's Cam Smith at $9,100. He's made his last 2 cuts here, nothing fancy though, a T48, a T42, coming off the T9 at the Farmers. He's kind of the lower owned guy in this range that I have no problem attacking with. If I have to narrow down all that banter right there, I think I'm going to go like Simpson, Phil, and Cooch. And then I'm going to look at ownership on Finau and Woodland. But I'd start with those other 3 unless Finau and Woodland come in somehow pretty low owned. That might sway me. But like Simpson, Mickelson, and Cooch, I think you're going to get some really good production at a pretty good price. And then Cam Smith, your GPP, just grip it and rip it if you want to.
Cam Smith, he went low on Sunday. I think he shot 7 under, so
he crushed it on Sunday. All right, 8K range. Another one kind of like Phil that we're going to talk about in a minute, but Bubba Watson at $8,900. You got Billy Ho at 88, good weekend last week. Ches Reavie, Benny On, great course history here. Putnam, Noren, Cam Champ, who let everybody down last week. Daniel Berger, Sneds, Grace, and List. What do you like in the 8K, Jesse?
I do think Bubba is going to be popular. I don't know how much I'll actually play of him, but I think he's okay. Ches obviously placed second here last year. He doesn't have good course history otherwise, but I don't mind him. I mean, 28th, the Desert Classic, 3rd in Hawaii, had a pretty good fall swing. So I don't mind Ches, and he is a borderline cash game play for me at 8,700. I'm going to play Putnam this week. You'll kind of call me a little crazy, but I think his strength lies in his irons, in his iron game. And, this is, you would think, a good place for that. He's not great off the tee, which kind of scares me a little bit, but he's pretty good on Bermuda surfaces. So I hope he goes low owned. I'm thinking he will. I also think Cam Champ will go low owned. I mean, this would be a typical place where I would go back to a guy, 2 straight miscuts, super chalky miscut last week. But I don't know if I can. I mean, just the putter, it's just not working appropriately at this point.
Yeah, when he was winning, he was putting out of his rear end.
Right. And if that goes away, I mean, that the other, I mean, he's decent on Bermuda. He averages about a stroke gain per round on Bermuda. Maybe that's what it will be, going back to Bermuda here, coming off of basically POA. But I don't know, man. I just don't have a good feeling about like I would somebody who is more, I guess, seasoned than what Cam is. So he's a GPP only play at this point, but he's probably going to be a lot lower owned. So if you're wanting to gamble, that's who I would gamble with, is Cam in this region.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Bubba at 89 is going to be very, very interesting. The guy that's played pretty well at this course, 10 of 12 made cuts with 4 top 10s. He did miss a cut here last year, but prior to that he missed a cut last time out. But here he played T40 here last year, a missed cut, and then T14, T2, T2. So he does like this course quite a bit. I told you can miss it and play out of the rough. He'll be interesting to see, but I don't know if I'm on him quite yet. Guys I do like, Billy Ho, 5 or 6 cuts here. Had a really nice weekend at the Farmers. His ball striking, his iron play is always some of the best on tour. So I like him at 8,800. You got Ches Reavie if you want to go back to that narrative. I'm not sure I'm completely sold on Ches this week, but I do like him as kind of a pivot off of Benny Ann. But Benny Ann, you got to really look at here. I don't mind him. 2 of 2 cuts here, a T23 and a 6 in his 2 appearances here, coming off a T12 his last tournament out. So Benny Ann at 86, very interesting. I echo everything you said about Champ. I wrote him down as a possible play. I really think, like, if it's like stupid low ownership, I'm going to have to put him somewhere just because he could go off here. But it's tough right now. I'm wondering, he hasn't really taken any breaks. Like, eventually you got to take a week off to just like retool. I know you're young. I know it's golf, but eventually you just got to decompress. He's already committed to Pebble next weekend. Like, dude is just non-stopping it right now. It's cool. Make your money. I get it. But it makes you wonder a little bit. And the last guy I'll mention here, coming off a missed cup and then a T12, T35, T15, is Daniel Berger. When you're talking course history, 4 of 4 made cuts here, T11, T7, T58, T10. That's pretty damn impressive. T11 or better in 3 or 4 years. I know it's a little shaky. He was gone with an injury for so long. Desert Classic was a little shaky. I think he finished T12, though, by the end of it. And then the Farmers didn't quite turn out so well. But really good course history, $8,200, probably low owned there. Something to think about in that respect. But if I got to just pick a couple, I like Billy Ho, I like Billy On in this 8K range. All right, 7K range. We got quite a few to go through here. So let's start 7,500 and above, Jesse. You got guys like Hatton, Cook, ZJ, Bradley, Answer, Palmer, Laird, Holmes, Grillo, Gooch, Kim, and Stanley. Who do you like at 7,500 and above?
Yeah, Cook's interesting. He played here last year, finished 31st. He hasn't played since the fall swing, which is a little odd to me. I would have figured he would have played one tournament by now, but his last time out was the Shriners and he missed the cut. So I think he's okay for GPP. Tyrell Hatton, I will play him for sure this week. 78, 7,900.
Yeah,
He's never played here, but he does have some good splits on Bermuda as far as putting goes. So I think he's worth a dart or two in a GPP. Party Marty. I don't think this will go unnoticed, but 9th, 7th, 41st, 5th, 19th in his last 6 or 5 times at this golf course. Started pretty good last week. Well, I say pretty good. He shot 66 on Friday, and was a little bit in contention for a little while. But anyways, finished 43rd last week after 2 straight missed cuts. So he's GPP only, but I don't mind him. I think Grillo will be popular. I think that's probably a misprice on him at 7,600. That seems really weird. It's probably a good week to go back to Answer. I don't mind Answer at all. Coming off miscut last week as well, was semi-chalky. You're getting a decrease this week in a weaker field at 7,700 versus 82 last week. So Answer is playable. My favorite play in this region is Hatton. Gooch is going to be popular too. There's quite a few down here you can definitely play.
Yep, definitely. There's something like I do like the Austin Cook call. It is weird. He hasn't really played since the fall swing. He's taken quite the break. I know he had a baby, or his wife had a baby, so he took some time for that. T31 here last year. I don't mind going back to him at $7,900. ZJ is one of those course history guys. I know he's been kind of interesting of late, but T28 last tournament miscut T7. But when it comes to this tournament, 4 straight made cuts. He's made 7 of 9. T57 last year, but then prior to that, T12, T14, T10. So a guy like ZJ, he might go a little overlooked at 7,800. Another guy we liked him last week, and he came through with the made cut, T35, is Keegan Bradley. He's $7,800. I think he's a great cash game play. 5 of 7 made cuts here. He has some decent finishes, 4 top 25s here, and just been making cut after cut on the PGA Tour overall. So I like him as a cash game play at $7,800. Party Marty Laird, I've already heard his name a ton, like you're saying. I could definitely see some chalk there with Party Marty, and he's a tilting guy because he is that kind of GPP guy that can pop off here, T9, T7, T41, T5, T19 his last 5 tournaments here. He's made 7 of 10 cuts with 4 top 10s at the Waste Management Open. So I get it. I see the appeal if you're a course history guy at 7,600. The last guy I will mention, he's probably going to be chalky, is Emiliano Grillo, like you said, at $7,600. If you look at the pricing when we talk about winners here in a little bit, he's 66-1, just like Benny Am, but he's $1,000 cheaper on DraftKings. That's kind of one of those things where you hear certain guys talk about kind of trying to find the mispriced guys, and that's usually one area you can look at. He makes cut after cut after cut. He's made 3 of 3 cuts here. Nothing real serious finish-wise, best at T45. But when it comes to cash games with some upside, I don't mind real at $7,600. So in the 75 and above, I like Cook, I like ZJ, Bradley, and Grillo be the ones I'm really focused on right there.
Who do you think? Let's play a real quick game. Who do you think's higher on, Grillo, Gooch, or Laird?
I think it's weird because Grillo is usually popular, but I think Gooch is gonna be stupid popular this week.
I do too.
And yeah. I get it, but we've seen this how many times before, Jesse? Like
right.
the new cool name, back-to-back top 5s or whatever. Let's do it. And then what do we see usually happen?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, like this is so this is the problem with starting kind of weird in the season. Like it makes me kind of second guess everything I would normally do. Normally, this is where the spot where I would completely fade that golfer Gooch, right?
Yeah.
It makes it hard though because he's coming off 2 top 5s there. One thing I will mention: if you start your lineup with John Rahm, it's going to leave 7,700 on the table average per person for your 5 remaining golfers. So most people are going to come right down into this range and pick the Answers, the Grillo, the Laird, Gooches. So these guys are going to be popular. So either skipping this range altogether or just taking maybe one of these guys is going to make your lineup a little bit different and help avoid some chalk and maybe potentially some chalk bombs.
I wouldn't be shocked on FanShare's weekly report if the most common correlated stack's going to be Rahm and Gooch. The way you just broke that down, I wouldn't be shocked.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me either if it's Gooch or Grillo, either one. It's gonna kind of depend on the toutability. Now, I don't know if people are gonna go along with what we've been saying here too. Obviously, this is Monday night. Are most people going to be thinking the same way that we are on their podcasts and in their write-ups that Gooch is going to be popular, so therefore he's not? Another good reason to have fan share.
Yep. Yeah, because if for reals, if come join us in the Slack chat on Wednesday, and if all of a sudden the ownership comes out and Gooch is going to be like, if he's like 12% or 15% or less, I'd really consider it. I'd prefer 10 or less, but like, what number would you need to say, okay, I'll jump back on Taylor Gooch this week?
Yeah, I think 10 is a good number on that. And the one thing that could be a little bit weird here too is that those guys kind of cancel each other out. So they're all 12 to 15% instead of anybody getting up into the 20s.
Yeah, no, that's true. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out because, even the way you said it, if you play ROM at least 7,700, you can go like Grillo, Gooch, Laird, and now you can go with like a low 8, high 7. It could get real ugly real quick.
Yeah.
But my only concern for Laird is I agree with Gooch. I agree with Grillo. I think Laird's going to be weirdly chalky because he's already getting the Mayo bump like crazy.
Yeah, I know. And
so that's coming.
You can really judge it by who Mayo's talking about because the dude is getting – I mean, I was listening to a podcast. He got like over 10 million listens last year. That's just crazy. I know that's all fantasy sports combined, but the dude, he can move the needle.
A lot of years.
Yeah.
A lot of years.
So he's a great podcast to listen to just for simply that,
Yeah, exactly. If you don't want to pay for fan share, just listen to Mayo's podcast. Right. After you listen to ours, go listen to Mayo's. You can decipher from there. All right, let's go 7,500 and above. There's a ton of names here, so I'm not going to mention them all, but there's a lot of names. I already mentioned M earlier as a guy to play. What are some guys you're looking at? Glover, those are a couple that already stand out to me, but what are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, Sung Jae, we were talking about before before the pod started. He was 7,800 last week. He was 8,100 at the Desert Classic. So you're getting a pretty good discount there. And again, a weaker field. He wasn't super popular last week. He didn't play out of his mind, but I think eventually he'll figure it out. And at 7,300, I definitely think he's worth the risk. Borderline cash for me, just the way he's been playing, just decently steady, nothing too crazy. Martin Keimer's decently interesting to me. He hasn't played here since 2014. He finished 53rd, missed 2 cuts before that, but been playing obviously a lot in Europe. Played last week at the Dubai Desert Classic, 24th, 22nd week before, 21st week before that, 5th week before that. So he's okay. Kokrak is a guy who I kind of got on a little bit late last week just because of some course history stuff that I look at. And he had a pretty good closing. The first half of his 9 on Sunday was really good, and then he went full Kokrak on the back 9 there.
Full Kokrak.
But he still finished 20th. That's two straight top 20s for him at $7,300. I think Neiman's okay. Harold Varner's he's okay. He's made 2 straight cuts here. I don't mind Harold Varner at all. Man, one of my favorite plays here is Lucas Glover. I mean, yep. I don't think he'll be low owned. So keep that in mind. But I mean, he's like on top of all kinds of shit that I look at. His tee to green numbers are really good as of late. It's kind of sketchy with the putter on Bermuda, but playing really well, and he's got some really high finishes coming in, and his course history is nah. One guy, one last guy that I'll mention, and this will be of no surprise to those who regularly listen to this podcast since its inception and have followed my picks along the way, is Kiradech Aphibarnrat.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 straight missed cuts. He did miss the cut last week at the Farmers Insurance Open. The week before that, he was over in Abu Dhabi, missed the cut there. He is better on Bermuda. So I was really super surprised. But on Fantasy Golf National, ran strokes game putting over the last 24 rounds on Bermuda, and this dude's number 1.
Wow.
Yeah, so take that for what it's worth. I'm going to play him this week, though, even though most people probably won't. He's not been playing that great, not hitting the ball well. But I mean, if he can figure it out on the green, might give him a little bit more confidence, and he might start the ball striking a little bit better. So that's it for me there at 7,000.
Yeah, there's a lot to like there. A couple kind of maybe lower owned guys, and he hasn't been coming in the greatest form. But Brendan Steele, miscut T57 in a 12th his last 3 tournaments. When it comes to course history, 8 of 8 made cuts here, 6 top 25s, 4 top 10s. A T3 here last year. He's been T17 or better in 4 of the last 5 years at this tournament. So he's a guy that can get some low ownership with some course history. We already talked about Sunjay. I like him a lot at this price point. Just makes cut after cut after cut. First time here, so stuff can happen. But $7,300 for Sunjay, I'll be all over that one yet again. HV3 at $7,200. Him and Bazzelli ruined a great thing last week. One of their back 9 blow-ups on Friday. Like the cut sweats were legit that week, and HV3 was one of them, coming in great form, playing well, and then blew up on the back. Made 2 straight cuts here, so I don't hate that at all. Kevin Na is another one that might get overlooked at $7,200. I know people can get tilted on Na. He's coming off a missed cut, but another course history guy at $7,200, 12 of 13 made cuts with 4 top 10s. So Na's a good iron player. If he can just keep the problem between his ears in check, he could probably put a good fit. That's a big if when it comes to Kevin Na. But when it comes to iron play, he fits.
The other thing you got to consider with Na too is the finger
injury.
Deal.
Good point.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on that. That happened at the Tournament of Champions.
No, wasn't the Sony. No, it might have been.
It was a tournament, and then he tried to play the Sony, and he withdrew that morning again, or that Wednesday.
Yeah,
he hasn't played all year since the fall, basically, since he withdrew in those tournaments. So hopefully he's all healed up if he's over there. But keep an eye on that. Good call with that.
But that's going to lower his ownership. I mean, he's going to be next to not owned most likely. So
yeah, so it's something to keep an eye on. If he is healthy, that'll be interesting. Maybe we'll have to find someone that's out there watching if anything's going on. Joaquin Niemann is an interesting one. I know he's burned us, but it's kind of like the Cam Champ thing, minus $1,100. T72 last week, he had a horrible Sunday. He actually would have finished a lot higher. Sunday crushed him. He's been just kind of puttering around. T72 miscut, T65, T60, but he's $7,200. Someone to keep an eye on. I love Lucas Glover. I'm probably going to eat the chalk there. I'm with you. When you were talking about him, this is a guy, I said 9 of 11 made cuts at this event, including 2 top 25s. He's been T17 or better in 5 straight PGA Tour events. He's just striking it so well. So I like that a lot at $7,200. And then the last guy I'll mention here, and it always comes down to putting with him, but it's very interesting, is Kevin Tway. T43 last week. Played decent over the weekend, but nothing crazy. He's a guy that, a cheap guy that GPP-wise can maybe make a run. So I don't hate him at $7,100. But for the most part, 75 and below, it's like HV3, Glover. Those would be my 3 main ones. And then some of those other guys just kind of one-offs here and there. 6K and below. There is actually stuff to like here, Jesse. What are you looking at?
6K and below. I mean, I would start with Streelman. I know, I'm pretty sure I touted him last week. So week before, I don't know. Last week he missed the cut, I think. If we could get the old stuff to load. Yeah, he missed the cut. He shot 72, 72. I think he's okay. I mean, he's pretty much gone miscut 34th, miscut 51st, miscut 25th, miscut 40th. I mean, he's like literally every other week miscut. So this would be the week that he would not miscut. If you believe in patterns. Joel Dahlman at 6,800. It's kind of a weird price to me. He was 69 last week and finished 9th, and so we're going to drop him $100 DraftKings. Okay. So I think he's playable. Stuart Sink at 67. His course history is not great, but I mean, he is Stu Goat, so I don't mind him. Sam Ryder, he made the cut last week and finished. What did he finish last week?
Sam Ryder, I have T43.
Yeah. So I mean, again, another guy who I think is very playable at 6,500. I don't mind him. Stricker's okay. Not a huge fan of him. Adam Long, dude, he surprised me last week by making the cut. He made the cut last week, didn't he? No, he missed the cut.
No, he missed it.
Yeah, so he won, missed the cut. I mean, that was to be expected. I thought he snuck in. because he shot 69 the first day, so he was 3 under, then shot 1 over the second day, and I think missed by 1 there. If you're down here in this range, you're at 6,400. He's obviously got the good form coming in. So, yeah. Another guy who I'll mention, one more guy, John Catlin.
Yeah.
At 6,200, excuse me. That's it. That's all I got.
The ultimate punt. Couple down here for me. Brandon Stewart at $6,900, coming off a T40 and a T8 in his last 2 events, but he's made 5 of 5 cuts here, 2 top 25s and a top 10. So something to keep in mind there with some course history. Joe Dahmen's one of my favorite at $6,800. I was all over him last week. He was in that lineup that would have been really good. It actually, the 4 of 6 cashed in cash games. Speaking of which, cash games are saving the world right now, like we've been talking about. And
that's showdown for me, but yeah.
Yeah, that's been happening in the Slack chat. The showdown's been popping. But, Dahlman at 68, I don't understand the price drop there. I know it's his first time here, but, just precision and iron play, I like him a lot. He could just – if the cut's at even, shit happens, but I like Dahlman's chances of getting through there. $6,800. Nick Watney's kind of a course horse guy if you want something fancy for a cash game. Another guy I do like, going back to the Brian Gay wagon, miscut last time out, but T22, T23 previous 2. He's made 14 of 16 cuts of this event. He had T9 here last year. I definitely like him at his price point at $6,700. You mentioned Stu Goat at 67. That is a staple of the podcast. Vaughn Taylor at 66 is also an interesting one. T7 his last time out. Made 7 of 9 cuts here, including back-to-back T11 here last year. So he's another guy at 66. And then one I don't understand at all. My last one I'll mention here. He just continues to make cuts. He's made 4 straight cuts. Yes, he T70'd last week. But his price has dropped every week. He's made 12 of 16 cuts here, including a T31 and a T22 his last 2 times out. Rory Sabatini is only $6,500. I don't get it. Like, I don't think he's ever going to challenge for the win, but at $6,500, I'm really perplexed with Rory Sabatini's price tag. If I just need to name a couple guys, I like Dahlman, I like Sabatini, Gay and Sink would be like my top 4 down here. Dahlman's my favorite, and Sabs is my biggest saver, if you want to look at it that way. But there actually is stuff I like down here in the 6s and 7s that make paying up to the big boys very, very feasible this week. All right, that wraps up our price point breakdown. Jesse, let's go a little more in tow here. Who's your top 3? There's a lot of GPP plays, but who are like 3 GPP plays you'd really take a look at?
Karadek. He'd be number 1, kind of boom or bust type of guy for me. Kokrak's another. And then, as far as kind of the higher price guys, it's got to be Rahm, I think.
Yeah, I think there's some that I'm not 100% on, but I could see the GPP appeal. Guys like Adam Hadwin, Marty Laird, and Cam Champ. Those are 3 guys that I can see with that boomer bust upside. Would I be shocked if Friday evening they all missed the cut? No. At the same time, these are guys that can contend and win. So,
and will be low owned as well. I'm with you.
So 3 guys I'd look at there. For me in cash, my top 3 I'm kind of looking at right now, cash-wise, would be the likes of Keegan Bradley, Joe Dahlman, which is weird to have a $6,800 guy, but I'm that confident in him making the cut, and like a Lucas Glover. And just those 3 price points alone allow you to spend up. No one over $7,800 there cash-wise I like a lot. If you want to know higher price guys, pretty much anybody I liked in the 9K range, I trust for cash. So what about you?
Yeah, I think this is a week where I actually try to get a super high price guy into the lineup. So I'm going to try to get Rahm in there if possible. And then Glover is in cash for me this week. And I would put, somebody else like Sungjae Im. I think that price is cash worthy for him and his ability.
Agreed. Like I could literally sit there. I could go like Glover, Im, and Griot in cash, and you haven't cost, and even Bradley. Now you're 78, 76, 73, and 72. You could probably get 2 pretty decent price guys in there, and have some fun, and feel somewhat confident about your weekend.
And I wouldn't mind going Rahm and then down to Gooch and Grillo and those guys we talked about in that range, and just eating it there and kind of hedging yourself out, and then not playing them in GPPs.
Let me ask you this: out of that Grillo, Laird, and Gooch range, which one do you like for cash the most?
I would go with I would put Grillo just slightly above Gooch.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I agree. And that's one thing I want to bring it up because people need to remember when we're talking cash, don't worry about the ownership. Do not care about the ownership.
No, it doesn't matter. Who gives a shit?
You like them, play them. That's
Yeah.
fine.
The one thing I would do always is put my cash team in a GPP.
Yep, that is outstanding advice as always. Who's your top bust of the week?
I thought we got rid of this segment.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did. We did. I'll just say it's Ricky Fowler. It's Ricky Fowler for me. But,
2 weeks ago, our two busts finished 2 and 3, and Gooch won, or not Gooch, but Adam Long won. But we had both of us were, Mickelson and Hadwin, bust. Yeah. So I was like, let's get rid of this segment, Bubba. And you're like, all right, man, let's do it.
Yeah, I totally forgot. That's my bad. Let's get some picks to win here. Everybody go to mybookie.ag, use promo code BENCHED, and you get a 50% deposit bonus. You got the big Super Bowl this weekend, all that other fun stuff, and they got all the prop bets are there, plus all the golf lines. They have top 5s, top 20s, everything you need for golf, including overall winners. Promo code BENCHED for a 50% deposit bonus. Jesse, who you like to win this?
Oh man, I mean it's super short odds, but John Rahm, I don't know, it's just hard for me to
6-1.
Yeah, I mean you're not going to bet that, but maybe if I guess the cool thing to do nowadays is to double it with somebody over in Saudi Arabia, which is the European Tour event. A lot of big names over there. So
do John Rahm and the Patriots money line.
You could do that, yeah.
Get creative with it.
What's that to now?
I haven't even checked. I'm assuming they're 3-point favorites or something.
They moved that much. I haven't kept up with it.
I haven't looked in the last few days. I'm assuming it'll be around 3 by game time.
Yeah, so you can probably get them like minus 175-ish or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. Make a little parlay there.
Yeah.
Any other long shots you want to just throw out there?
I mean, if you're going super deep, might sprinkle a little bit on Glover, man. I think he's kind of a little bit due.
We're talking about Glover. Let me scroll down to the Glover and see where you can get him at. I'm guessing you guys – I actually looked at him earlier. Yeah, here he is. He's 110-1.
Yeah, I mean, that throw a few bucks on him. And
throw him on top 20 and you can get some good odds for that.
They have top 20 odds on my bookie?
Yeah, give me a second. That's farther down the list here. Let me scroll that one down. 1 second. I might scroll too far now. They're not up yet. That's my bad. They're not up yet. I know that I saw them last week. We recorded on Tuesday last week. So tomorrow they'll be up for you. Yeah, they're not up yet. But the Saudi Arabia ones are up. But my guys, I like Finau at 25-1. I think Berger is interesting at 66-1. I love the Glover call at 110-1, though. I think that's a fun one right there to definitely go take a stab at.
I bet that number comes down too. I mean, his tee to green numbers, once people start looking at it a little bit further, they'll sprinkle a little bit. Definitely.
All right, that'll wrap us up this week, Jesse. Any final thoughts on the Waste Management Open? It's one of my favorite weekends because the tournament ends right about kickoff of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. This is a fun weekend. Obviously, you've got the 16th over there, which is a stadium, and it's like the only golf hole in the whole entire world that is played like that, like it's in actual football stadium. So it's definitely a lot of fun to watch. I do want to mention one other thing. Ryan Ballingy, who we had on the podcast during the off season, he set up a trip to go to Sweetens Cove this year, and I think I'm going to be there. So anybody else out there, hit up Ryan. He's got it tweeted out. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's not that big of a price. It's like 2 days of golf, and so if you got some plans this summer, if you want to make some plans, I would check that out.
There you go. Sounds like a really, really good time. With that being said, Jesse's on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods, the podcast at Always Press DFS. You can give us a rating and review on iTunes. We much appreciate it. I'm on Twitter at BDentric, and this was the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast, Waste Management Open Preview. Catch you guys next time.